Hey everyone, welcome back to All Old Rare Coins. Today, we're diving into a fascinating part of American numismatics, the United States 1-cent coin from 1975. Now, even though it's just a penny, there's a lot more to this little coin than you might think. So, whether you're a collector or just someone who loves American history, this one's for you. So, let's start with a little background. The 1-cent coin has been a staple of American currency since the late 1700s, but the penny design most of us are familiar with today actually dates back to 1909. This is when the U.S. Mint decided to honor President Abraham Lincoln for his 100th birthday, creating the Lincoln cent. Now, let's fast forward to 1975. The 1975 Lincoln penny might look like any other, but what's interesting is what didn't happen that year. Because the U.S. was preparing for the bicentennial celebration in 1976, there were actually no specially minted pennies for 1975, no mint marks, no unique designs. Taking a closer look at the design, on the front, or obverse, of the 1975 penny, we have Victor David Brenner's famous portrait of Abraham Lincoln. This design had already been used for more than 60 years by then and is one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coin history. And on the back, or reverse side, we see the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny depiction of Lincoln's statue between the pillars of the memorial, an amazing detail many people overlook. Now, let's talk mint marks. In 1975, these pennies were struck at two main locations, Philadelphia and Denver. If you have a coin with no mint mark, it was minted in Philadelphia. But if you see a small d under the date, that means it was minted in Denver. In terms of value, most 1975 pennies in circulated condition are worth just face value, $20,000 to $25,000. But if you find one in uncirculated or proof condition, it could be worth a little more, anywhere from thousands of dollars depending on its condition and rarity. Now, here's a fun fact: the 1975 penny might not be rare, but it's still collectible. Many people enjoy collecting these coins by year, or even by errors like misprints. So, if you ever find a 1975 penny with a double strike or other unusual feature, you could be holding a small piece of minting history. Alright, that's all for today's video on the 1975 US 1-cent coin. Remember, even the smallest pieces of change can have big stories behind them. Now, we're taking a closer look at a fascinating coin in American numismatics, the 1961 United States 1-cent coin. This penny might look like just another coin at first glance, but it actually has a few unique characteristics and a rich history. So, let's jump in. First, let's set the scene with a little background. The 1-cent coin, commonly known as the Lincoln cent, was first introduced in 1909 in honor of President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln cent has become one of the longest-running designs in American currency history. In 1961, Brenner's portrait of Lincoln had been in use for over 50 years, and the design was beloved by the public. But what made the 1961 penny special? Well, it wasn't a major redesign year, but there are still some interesting aspects that make this coin unique to collectors. Taking a closer look at the design, on the obverse, or front side, of the 1961 penny, we see Lincoln's profile facing right, along with the phrases, "In God We Trust," above his head, "Liberty," to the left, and the year, 1961, to the right. And on the reverse side, we have the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. This reverse design replaced the earlier wheat ears design in 1959, commemorating Lincoln's legacy in a different way. If you look closely, you can even see a tiny version of Lincoln's statue between the pillars, an incredible detail you might not have noticed. Now, let's talk about mint marks. The 1961 penny was produced at two main mint locations, Philadelphia and Denver. If your penny has no mint mark, it was minted in Philadelphia. However, if you see a small d under the date, that indicates it was minted in Denver. Over 1.7 billion pennies were minted in 1961, with both Philadelphia and Denver contributing to this massive production. Because of this high mintage, most 1961 pennies in circulated condition are only worth face value, thousands dollars. However, finding one in mint or uncirculated condition could add some value, anywhere from $30,000 to $40,000. Now, here's where things get interesting. While the 1961 penny might not be rare, there are some error coins out there that collectors really love. Some 1961 pennies feature double die errors, where the coin's design elements appear slightly doubled, especially in areas like the date or lettering. Another popular error for this year is the BIE error. This is where a small die crack appears between the B and E in the word liberty on the obverse side. These errors are highly collectible and can add value to a standard 1961 penny. So, while most 1961 pennies won't bring a big return, those with error markings or in pristine condition are definitely worth hanging on to. If you're lucky enough to find a 1961 penny in high mint state or with one of these errors, you could have a valuable addition to your collection. That's it for today's look at the 1961 United States 1-cent coin. Remember, every coin tells a story, and even a humble penny can have its own unique tale. Next, we're diving into a classic piece of American currency, the 1963 U.S. 1-cent coin, or, as we all know it, the Lincoln penny. This humble little coin has more to it than meets the eye. So let's take a closer look at what makes the 1963 penny an interesting coin for collectors. Let's start with some history. The Lincoln cent has been a staple in American currency since 1909, created to celebrate President Abraham Lincoln's 100th birthday. Designed by Victor David Brenner, the Lincoln penny became the first U.S. coin to feature a real person and is now one of the longest-running designs in U.S. coin history. By 1963, the Lincoln cent had been circulating for over 5 decades, but there were no special design changes or commemorative features. It was a straightforward year for the penny, but there are still some interesting aspects about this coin worth exploring. Let's take a closer look at the design. On the obverse, or the front side, we see the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right, with the inscriptions, "In God We Trust," above, "Liberty," to the left, and the year, 1963, on the right. On the reverse side, we have the Lincoln Memorial, a design by Frank Gasparo. This reverse design had replaced the original, wheat ears design in 1959 and added a unique detail. If you look closely, you can actually see a tiny version of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial. Now, let's talk mint marks and mintage. The 1963 penny was struck at 2 mints, Philadelphia and Denver. If your penny has no mint mark under the date, it was minted in Philadelphia. If you see a small d, that means it was produced in Denver. Over 1.9 billion pennies were minted in 1963, so they're not particularly rare. However, if you find one in uncirculated or proof condition, it might have a higher value, ranging from a few cents to thousands of dollars. Collectors often search for the highest quality examples from each year, and 1963 is no exception. Now, here's something for the collectors out there. The 1963 penny has a few notable errors that can increase its value. One popular variety is the double die error, where the design elements, especially the date and lettering, appear slightly doubled. This error can add significant value to an otherwise common penny. Another error type to look out for is a die crack, where tiny cracks form in the metal die used to strike the coin, creating raised lines or cracks on the penny's surface. These little imperfections make the coin unique and can be quite collectible. So, what's the value of a 1963 penny? For circulated examples, it's mostly $50,000 to $60,000. But uncirculated coins, coins with mint errors, or coins with a high red luster can be worth more. For example, a high-quality, uncirculated 1963 penny could be worth $1,000. Error coins, depending on their rarity and visibility, can be even more valuable. Alright, that wraps up our look at the 1963 United States 1-cent coin. It may not be a rare year, but it's a great example of how even common coins can have fascinating details and value for collectors. So, check your change or your coin collection, you might have a little piece of history right in your pocket. Last coin, we're diving into the world of US pennies, specifically the 1981 1-cent coin. The 1981 penny might seem like just another common coin, but this little cent actually has some unique qualities that make it interesting for collectors. So let's break down what makes the 1981 penny a fascinating coin. First, a little background. The Lincoln cent, which was first introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, has been one of the longest-running coin designs in American history. Designed by Victor David Brenner, this penny was the first U.S. coin to feature a real person. By 1981, the Lincoln cent design had been in circulation for over 70 years. But what's interesting about the 1981 penny is that it was one of the last years for the copper-based Lincoln cents before the U.S. Mint switched to a new composition in 1982 due to the rising cost of copper. Now, let's talk about the design. On the obverse, or the front side, we have the classic portrait of Abraham Lincoln facing right. Above Lincoln is the phrase, "In God We Trust," with liberty to the left and the year 1981 to the right, and on the reverse side, we have the Lincoln Memorial, designed by Frank Gasparo. If you look closely, you'll even see a tiny image of Lincoln's statue inside the memorial, a small but amazing detail many people overlook. The 1981 penny was struck at 3 locations: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. If you see a small D below the date, that means it was minted in Denver, while a small S indicates it was made in San Francisco. If there's no mint mark, then it was produced in Philadelphia. In terms of mintage, 1981 was a high production year. Philadelphia produced over 7 billion pennies, Denver minted nearly 6 billion, and San Francisco struck a smaller number of proof coins, intended for collectors. These proof coins have a special mirror-like finish, which makes them particularly desirable among collectors. Here's a fun fact about the 1981 penny. It was one of the last years to use the mostly copper composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc. Starting in 1982, the mint switched to a primarily zinc composition with a thin copper coating, to save on production costs as copper prices rose. So, any 1981 penny is actually a bit more valuable in terms of its copper content than later pennies. Now, when it comes to collector value, most circulated 1981 pennies are worth only their face value. However, uncirculated pennies in pristine condition, especially proof coins from San Francisco, can be worth $10,000 depending on their condition. So, if you have an uncirculated or proof penny, hold on to it. Like many other years, the 1981 penny has some interesting error varieties that are highly collectible. Some 1981 pennies were minted with a double die error, which creates a doubled effect on parts of the design, often in the lettering or the date. These double die pennies can be quite valuable. There are also a few examples of off-center strikes, where the coin's design is misaligned due to a production error. Collectors find these error coins fascinating, and they can be worth more than a standard 1981 penny, depending on the severity and visibility of the error. So, should you collect the 1981 penny? Absolutely. It's an affordable coin to add to your collection, and finding one in high-grade uncirculated condition, or even a proof from San Francisco, can be a nice addition to any collection. Plus, those error varieties are always worth keeping an eye out for. Thanks for joining me today on All Old Rare Coins, to take a closer look at the 1981 US penny. Even the smallest coins can have a rich history and unique value. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below if you've ever found a rare or interesting penny in your own collection. See you next time, and happy collecting!